Grateful Day. I'm live. Grateful Day, everyone. Wow. Welcome to the 70th episode of the Faith Forward Fearlessly podcast with your host, Jenée Hudson, the Uplifter. I empower professionals and entrepreneurs who feel disqualified to overcome self-doubt, embrace healing, and to lead boldly in their identity, courage, integrity, all anchored in faith. Hello. Time for the shirt. So today's shirt pretty much says diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So this shirt is simply a reminder of all the words that pretty much I have just stated. And it actually, what I wanted to do is just tell you what all of these words mean and things. So obviously, diversity means difference, such as different protective characteristics and different ways of like thinking, being presented. All right. And then inclusion is when everyone is included, irrespective of their like differences. And then belonging is pretty much the feeling of security and support where there is like a sense of acceptance, inclusion, and identity for like a member of a certain group for the most part. So this is what this shirt is just kind of a reminder of today. All right. So today's episode is called Hush Money and Holy Boldness. The truth about toxic environments with guest Jacquie Abram. You guys, I'm so excited today for this episode, and I hope that you're going to get a wealth of information. All right, so today we're diving deep into a necessary and just soul-stirring conversation that many people seem to like shy away from, right? But not here on this podcast. We are not shying away today about what we're going to be talking about because it is so very necessary. So we're talking through like the fire with faith, you guys, because, you know, that's what this space is all about. Just being able to just talk through things and just gain like gems and things like that. So, so happy that you're here to join me today. So again, today we're talking about what covert racism looks like, you guys, and how like that systemic injustice hides in like plain sight, and how holy boldness with faith-fueled courage can transform trauma into purpose. All right. So, but before we begin, let me inform you of 3 eye-opening statistics, all right, that pretty much will set the tone for today's conversation. First, according to Pew Research, since 2023, 45% of Black employees in the U.S. have experienced discrimination or unfair like treatment at work because of their race, all right? Also, a study from the EEOC in the year 2022, only 3.3% of executive or senior level roles in Fortune 500 companies were held by Black professionals, you guys. Excuse me, 3.3%. Wow, that's very, very low, right? And lastly, research from the Harvard Business Review states that during the year 2021, over 60% of employees who experience workplace racism, they say they suffer from like long-term like emotional trauma, including anxiety and depression. That is not a good look. Not at all, right? So, honestly, in all honesty, like these numbers are not just statistics, they're real experiences, okay? Real, they're plain. You guys, I'm sure you might have been there. I know, unfortunately, I have, but it's happened to real people. So today, you guys, we are holding space for truth, okay? Healing and actionable change. I'm all about action, right? Because I know firsthand that all of these statistics have felt just devastating to me. So I know exactly what they felt like, let me tell you, unfortunately. But I've had to endure them all. But to put a better positive note on today's episode, I am excited, you guys, to inform you of today's special guest. Someone whose story isn't just like powerful, but it's very purposeful, you guys. All right. So today I am honored to introduce you to our esteemed guest, Jacquie Abram. Let me tell you a little bit about Jacquie Abram. You guys, she is an international, best-selling, award-winning author and expert on toxic workplace culture and systemic racism, okay? She wrote Surviving in a Toxic Workplace and the widely acclaimed Hush Money series, you guys, which serves as both a survival guide for Black employees and a wake-up call for employers, okay? She is a former high education professional with nearly 2 decades of experience. Jacquie left corporate America after enduring repeated racial trauma, you guys. She also self-published Hush Money with her daughters, you guys, and turned it into a global bestseller. How amazing is that, right? So Jacquie is also known as the employee's toxic workplace consultant, and she leads like this impactful workplace masterclass, which is phenomenal. All right. So what the masterclass is called is How to Fight Discrimination in a Toxic Workplace. All right. So, her work has been featured, you guys, in Forbes, ABC News, and Spectrum News. And, you guys, she's a 2-time #1 Amazon bestseller and a reader's favorite gold medalist. Man, that is powerful, right? Man, she is phenomenal. You guys, through her writing and her speaking, Jacquie implores like Black professionals, you guys, to stand up to racism all together with clarity, courage, and strategy, you guys. That is phenomenal, right? Well, please welcome me in joining my esteemed guest for today, Jacquie Abram, you guys.
Okay.
All right.
How's that?
Perfect. I'm like, oh no. But let me tell you something. Champions adjust big time, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Yes. To everybody, thank you so very much for the technical difficulties. But on this show, champions adjust. All right. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've already said amazing things about you. So you'll have to go back now and hear how amazing you were. But yes. All
Well,
right.
you just never know what you're going to get with technology. So, like you said, we pivot, we adjust. It's all right.
Champions always adjust.
Mhm.
Okay.
Now,
That's right.
I can't
Right.
see you. I was hoping I would be able to see you, but now I'm not seeing you.
Really? Well,
But
it's got to something on your end because you'll be able to go back and watch this because I'll be making you the collaborator. So yeah.
Okay,
But I
sounds good.
don't know. I'm surprised you can't see me.
Wow. And I did see you before, and you looked absolutely beautiful. And so I was hoping to see you, but if this is the only way we can make this work, then, let's do it, okay?
It's got to be on your end, like the camera or something, because yeah, I can see you clearly and hear you. So I'm not
Well,
sure.
the funny thing is, I really don't use Instagram very often. And so this is actually my first time going live on any Instagram. So the chances of it being something I'm doing is pretty high.
Oh, that's okay. But you're
All
here and I
right.
see you and your beautiful face.
Oh, thank
Well,
you. Well, and I'll tell you, I'm still kind of riding high on an event I had last night on LinkedIn. There were over 5,100 people that registered, and 2,368 people watched the event live. And now, the others that couldn't make it because they were in the UK are watching it, the replay. But it was just incredible. And then this one coming behind that, and getting to see you, this amazing personality that I've been communicating with for quite some time now.
oh, well, thank you. I appreciate
Mhm.
that. Hey,
Mhm.
I wish you could see me even more now. No. Please expand on yourself and tell people how they can contact you really quickly.
Okay. So I am Jacquie Abram. I am the international best-selling and award-winning author of Hush Money: How One Woman Proved Systemic Racism in Her Workplace and Kept Her Job. Hush Money: The Cost of Being Black in Corporate America. And my newest and most powerful book, Surviving in a Toxic Workplace: Strategies to Help You Protect Your Career. If you want to get in touch with me because you are experiencing something in the workplace, because I am also a toxic workplace consultant and employee advocate, and I help people all around the world walk away from these toxic jobs, but not empty-handed. I actually help them walk away with their pockets full. I specialize in getting six-figure settlements for folks who either can't get an attorney to take interest in their cases,
Wow.
or people who don't know how to lay out their cases, because it's one thing to know that you're experiencing discrimination. It's another thing to be able to document it and write it up in the way that it needs to be written up to motivate your employer to settle with you. I do not believe in going to court. I have never gone to court. I've received over 5 different large settlements, including multiple six-figure settlements from these ridiculous toxic employers, but I have never set foot in a courtroom. None of my clients ever set foot in a courtroom. If I am successful in motivating that company to settle with you, we get our lump sums in 7 to 14 days, okay? And this is after the revocation period expires. And so if you need my help, you can reach me on LinkedIn. That is where I practically live because the majority of my clients seek me out and find me on LinkedIn. So that's going to be the best way to get in touch with me. If you send me a message, I will respond to you within 24 hours. I'm very quick. Instagram, I've never really used a whole lot, but if I find that there is a large enough interest in seeing me here more often, then I'll start coming on more often. But right now, LinkedIn is where all of my content is.
All right. All right. That is wonderful. So obviously that's Jacquie Abram on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Phenomenal.
yeah, oh yeah, just look for Jacquie Abram, and you'll see me, my pictures. I am notorious for posing with panthers, and so you'll see that. If you see me with those panthers, you'll know you're on the right page.
That's amazing. Okay, thank you so much for that information, Jacquie.
Mhm.
And I just have one question about that really, really quick before we get to the other questions. And that is what you just stated. So is there a time frame for that type of thing? Just curious. I mean,
So when you say that type of thing, meaning, working with the clients and
Yeah.
working to motivate their employers, it all depends, but I'll tell you, I'm really good. Okay. I specialize in motivating these employers because I know how to write up what happened to you so that it puts the human factor back into a situation that has been dehumanized. But more importantly, I take your narrative. So let's say that you've experienced, heinous discrimination
Mhm.
and maybe some retaliation that happened to you. Well, I'm going to figure out what happened to you from A to Z, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then I'm going to write it up with you. We're going to do this together. It is an interactive process. We're going to look at your evidence and we're going to tie it to what I write up. And I'm going to break down everything that happened to you in incidents. So instead of writing just a beautiful narrative, I take everything that happened. So let's say your boss started trying to make it appear that you were incompetent, okay? And so they started putting you under something that I call unfair scrutiny, meaning they started watching you a little more closely than they were the other people that reported to them. Well, that's going to be one separate incident where, they were micromanaging you to a different level than what they were doing with the other people on the team, okay? And let's say they're watching you because they're trying to find errors and mistakes that you're making. Well, if they find something, they're holding you to a standard of Black excellence that they're not applying to the other non-Black people that report to them. So now you've got two separate incidences just there. You've got the fact that they're putting you under unfair scrutiny,
Mhm.
watching you closely, doing excessive micromanaging. And then if they find something wrong, because they're really looking for mistakes, they're
Yeah.
looking for things that they can use against you. And when they find something, you're not given grace, okay? They immediately use it, they document it against you because they're trying to build documentation and evidence to support this narrative that you became incompetent, okay?
Right.
And so those are two separate incidences. So in that incident and this incident, when I write something up, I'm going to show what happened in each incident. So what was the background that led to this boss, all of a sudden now micromanaging you? In a lot of cases, if you've been on your job a while, it means that you were doing great before, you were getting good performance reviews, and then maybe there was a change in leadership, and this good boss that you had went away, and now this toxic boss replaced that person. And this toxic boss is now targeting you
Mhm.
because they don't believe you deserve the position and you're maybe the only Black person that reports to them. So they want to start targeting you. They want to get you out of their department. So they're going to inspire others around you to conspire with them. And before you know it, it's not just one person targeting you anymore. You are now dealing with people, a bunch of people who are all working together to make your work life a living hell. Okay. And
Okay.
so
Got it.
that's how I write it up. But in addition to showing what happened, I'm going to show the impact that this one incident had on your ability to do your job, because every discriminatory or retaliatory thing that happens to you has
Mhm.
to impact your ability to do your job. And so I'm going to show what that impact was. Say, for example, you're a brand new employee and they didn't give you any training. They brought you into this company, but they didn't train you properly. They didn't give you a proper onboarding. So because of that, it set you up to
Yeah.
fail. And it set you up to fail because now you're making mistakes. And, in my case, not only did my boss, okay, train me the wrong way. So, he wanted to steer me the wrong way right out of the gate by
Wow.
training me the wrong way. But then on top of that, they gave me equipment that was older than dirt,
Right.
okay? I'm still convinced to this day that they found the computer system they gave me in some archaeological dig somewhere, okay? Because it was low. And so that's the other thing, everybody that comes to me has equipment problems. They can't access the share drives. They don't have access to the calendars. They don't have access to their email, or their equipment is broke down and older than dirt. All of these things, when you look at them in isolation, it doesn't sound like much, but when you connect those dots, the way that I know how to connect them, it paints a powerful, powerful picture of the abuse that you suffered. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
Okay, that is amazing. So, what about me, the person who might not be there no more? That's what I was asking about, though. Also,
Mhm.
haven't been there for a while. Is it too late now, or
So every
there's
state, now remember, I have clients in different countries as well. I've got clients in the UK, I have clients in Canada, I've got clients in Australia, France, and I just had someone reach out to me from India. And so it all depends on the country, okay, the province, or if you are in the US, it goes by the state, okay? So
okay?
the state has civil rights agencies. And the EEOC has work share agreements with many states, okay? So if you are in a state, so say, example, you're in Colorado, or you're in Texas, for example, then you would have 300 days, okay, from the last incident, the last discriminatory incident that you experienced, which in this case would be either a wrongful termination or something called a constructive discharge, where, you resigned, but you didn't resign because you wanted to. You resigned because you were forced into resigning because the environment was so toxic
Right.
and so hostile that it was affecting your mental health, okay?
Well,
And
wait,
so,
Jackie.
mhm,
So I'm sorry not to cut you off, but
mhm,
for me, it was because of
mhm,
COVID. COVID kind of just happened, and then they found a way, to be honest. But it's okay because it's been many years. So
okay,
okay, and I know I'm in Michigan. Quite honestly, I was in human resources on the executive staff level. You know what I mean?
yes,
I was HR for the
okay,
at the Good Old Boys Club is
yeah,
what I called it. But it was like 15 white males, and then there was me,
right.
the only female
So you're the
lead.
only black
And
and the only female. Well,
yeah,
the only
so then
black
yeah,
female.
yeah, the position went away, and here we are doing better. So I'm grateful. Thank
Mhm.
God.
God
You know
is
what I mean?
good. Yeah,
So
God is good.
curious about that time frame. But yeah, unfortunately, when I went to do something with the EOC, to be honest, before I actually took, in my opinion, which would have been hush money, in my opinion,
Okay,
um, I actually was informed by my lawyer that, oh, I only had it was 3 months too long. You know what I mean? To have done something for him. Yes, I could have went to the EEOC still and things like that. But at that point, I was like, you know what? That's okay. God has removed me from this toxic environment, and I'm on to better things
okay.
to help type of thing. So that's kind of where I stand with that. But yeah, that
Mhm.
is amazing
Mhm.
that you exist in so many different places. That is wonderful. Love
Yeah.
to.
And
So,
I do enjoy the work that I do.
yes.
You know,
Oh,
I was
because
in a really dark
book.
place when I wrote the Hush Money series. I was in a very dark place. And so being able to take that, the pain and the trauma of what I went through, and turning that pain into power to now help other people avoid some of the mistakes that I made in my career. Because yes, I always went back and I always fought, and I never walked away from a single job empty-handed. But the problem is a lot of people will wait until they are terminated or
Mhm.
until they resign to fight back. And so the reason I started doing this work was I wanted people to stop waiting until you lose your income. Don't wait until they have fired you, or that you are so damaged that you need to forcibly leave under constructive discharge. I wanted to show you how to fight back and set that company up while your income is still intact, because there's a way to slow that company down. Right now, people that are experiencing discrimination, the attacks are designed to break you, okay? To break you like you are a wild horse that they want to tame. And so if you don't do something to stop them, to slow them down, they will continue going until they've damaged your health to such a degree that it's nearly impossible for you to recover, or, they have forced you out or forced you into resigning. And I
Wow.
wanted to show people that you can slow them down. You can actually stop them in their tracks. There's a right way to do this and keep your income.
Yeah. Well, see, I ended up getting a severance, thank God.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
I offered that severance because I know here in Michigan, they didn't have to actually even give me the severance,
mm-hmm,
but I kind of offered like, oh no, no, I'm worthy of a lot more. And the position's going away,
mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh no. So thank God that there is a God and I was
Yes.
able to get that assistance by my God. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm.
but I want to get to the questions. So to guide us with our discussion today, here are some giftful questions that I'm very eager to continue exploring with our esteemed guest, you guys, Jacquie Abram. So let's get started. There's 5 questions, okay? So, Jacquie, gift number 1 is, in your journey from surviving those toxic workplaces
Mhm.
to becoming a bestseller author and consultant, it's simply incredible, just so you know.
Thank you.
But can you just, like, take us back a moment and just tell us what pretty much let me see here, like what you knew or why you knew you couldn't stay silent anymore, and like how your book Hush Money actually was born, from that actual decision. If you could just take us through that.
Okay, I'm going to do one better. In this newest book right here, I actually go into that. The first chapter of this book is called Hush Money.
Okay.
So I'm just going to read you a little bit from this book and it will answer that question, okay?
All right.
Okay. So it says, I never knew the cost of being Black in corporate America, the price I would pay with my dignity and fundamental rights as a human being, just to have a job that wasn't in a low-income sector, a job that had a satisfying career path and gave me and my family a chance to live the American dream. But if I knew then what I know now, maybe I would have done things differently before taking the job that traumatized and nearly destroyed me. Maybe I would have bleached my dark skin to make it lighter, or removed my long dookie braids to straighten my hair. Maybe I would have bought blue contacts to hide my brown eyes and got a nose job with a butt reduction too. Do all the things I shoulda, woulda, coulda done to look less like me and more like them, just to fit into a mold I had no part in creating. No, I know me. And even if I could go back in time to that fateful day that changed my life in the worst way, I wouldn't change a thing, because I'm the strong, beautiful Black woman God created me to be. Dark skin, dookie braids, big butt and all. I'm Jacquie Abram. My daughters and I are the international best-selling and award-winning authors of Hush Money, How One Woman Proved Systemic Racism in Her Workplace and Kept Her Job. I've been featured in Forbes, on ABC and Spectrum News, and on others like you. Let me turn the ringer off here. Like you, I began my career in higher education, filled with ambition, hope, and determination, believing that my skills and abilities would guarantee my success. I was a pillar of confidence, a 6-foot-tall Janet Jackson lookalike, with a smile that could sink 1,000 ships and a walk that could literally stop traffic. I was an Amazon, my own Wonder Woman, with legs for miles and a warrior spirit burning deep inside me. It was that fire, that passion, that drive that fueled my rise up the ladder of success. And rise I did. I earned promotion after promotion, my work ethic and performance speaking louder than words ever could. And I climbed that ladder of success, not because of favoritism or privilege, but because of the exceptional way I performed my job. However, as I continued to reach new heights in my career based on my skills and abilities, a change in leadership caused someone in the organization who wasn't there when I was hired to notice me. Someone who was not only in a higher position than mine, but who was also a toxic leader, a racist, who didn't believe I deserved the position that I held because I was a Black woman. When this leader began targeting me, she used the power, influence, and authority of her position to inspire others in the organization to conspire against me. Before long, I wasn't dealing with just one leader targeting me anymore. I was now dealing with people, a whole lot of people, who were all working together to pull that rug from under me, causing me and that ladder I was climbing up on to come crashing down. Sadly, this was just the beginning. In the years that followed, I ran from one company to the next, trying to find a place where I could not only survive working while Black, but also thrive. But here's the problem. I ran from the first company because I was Black, and when I ran to the next company, guess what? I was still Black. And although the companies were different, the playbook the toxic leaders in each company used to repeatedly derail my career was the same. Their coordinated efforts were devastatingly effective and repeatedly left me jobless, homeless, and struggling as a single mom to provide for my two girls. As I'm sure you can imagine, they also left me broken and traumatized to such a degree that I may never fully recover. Many Black women speak about the psychological trauma caused by toxic workplaces, and I'm no exception because the trauma is real. But for me specifically, the physical trauma, hair loss, and 100 pounds of weight gain was even more devastating and took a toll on me that went beyond anything I imagined I could possibly endure. At 6 feet tall, I never blended in anywhere. I always stood out. But standing out as a 6 foot tall Janet Jackson lookalike was a lot different than standing out as a 6 foot tall version of Medea.
Wow.
And I just cannot tell you, I can't begin to describe the hurtful things that were not only said about me, but also to me. One of the milder examples occurred when a Latina colleague cruelly muttered Jabba the Hutt in Spanish as I walked by. Another person commented on a post I made stating, "You should do some sports and stop eating shitty American fast food so you won't be an obese whale, and maybe people would stop making fun of you."
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
wow.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And that's only a part. I put the post in my book. I mean, you can actually see it. I mean, there was a lot of nastiness that came in. I mean, if I read you this person's comment on my post, it was just nasty.
You know, Jackie, I can totally relate.
Mm-hmm.
Let me
Mm-hmm.
I know we're doing this podcast, but boy, should we share stories.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There were things that had happened when I was in the corporate world that I could not make
Yeah,
up.
it's
From
ridiculous.
sexual harassment to discrimination to, unfortunately, one of my managers who literally was helping people to tie knots in ropes during a training and
Wow.
literally mentioned, "Don't tell Jenée
Mm,
in HR helping you guys to tie a noose." I
mm.
can make up half of this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
So I totally
ridiculous.
relate. And it gets worse than that. So
Mm-hmm. I mean, just ridiculous. And so that's really where hush money came from. At that point in my journey, I was so traumatized by what kept happening to me. And I was also traumatized by the fact that, I look good on paper. I have the credentials these employers said that they needed. I perform and approach my job, from an exceptional level. And yet, and I even communicate effectively across the board. And yet I cannot keep a job. I cannot keep a job because, someone starts targeting me, and I may start off getting along great with the boss I have, but all it takes is a change in leadership
Mm-hmm.
to take all of the progress that you've made and literally unravel your career.
Yep.
And so I was in a very dark place, like I said, when I wrote Hush Money. This was right after I had found myself out of a job for the fifth time.
Wow.
I had found myself homeless again for the third time. And I was racially exhausted because, yes, I always went back. I always went back and fought, okay? And I got those big settlements, but I was not smart enough back then to realize that, you knew you could see the signs. Why did you wait until you were terminated or forced out of that company before you really started fighting them? You saw the signs, you knew what was happening, but you waited. You just thought, if I don't make waves, then maybe this will go away. And so I wanted to show people that you know the signs. You can tell when something is not right. You can tell when you're being watched more than someone else is on the team. You can tell when your duties are slowly being removed and being assigned to someone else. You can tell when your boss is requiring you to do your work and then give it to them so they can quote unquote review it, but what they're really doing is taking credit for your work. Okay, you can see all of those signs. And so it is a big mistake to wait until they fire you or they force you out before you start fighting, because then you're losing your income and you're fighting while you have no income. And in my case, I waited too long. And so I would then go back and fight, but I'm fighting from my car or I'm fighting from an extended stay hotel
Wow.
because I've run out of the savings, okay, that I had accumulated. And once you run out of that savings, you and your children find yourself repeatedly homeless. And so I didn't want anybody to experience what I experienced. So that's why I decided, and like I said, I was in a dark place. So when I wrote Hush Money, and I'm not a writer, my background is in finance. So when I wrote Hush Money, I had no clue what I was doing. I just poured my heart into it. And
Yep.
I didn't know where to put the commas. I didn't know how to format it. I mean, it was just ridiculous. But God blessed it. I
Yes.
was selling it from the trunk of my car, and God blessed it. And
Yes.
then he gave it wings, and somehow Forbes got a hold of this very flawed, broke down book, but this book that was powerful because they could tell that there was a real person behind it. And
Right.
when Forbes gave it wings, then it made its way around the world. And that's when I realized there are other Black people going through this in other countries too, because they started reaching out to me. It was crazy.
Wow.
Mhm.
Again, amazing. I already kind of knew your story because I
Mhm.
looked into it before we even did the podcast and things. And yeah, I just knew there was a lot of similarities. And like you said, there's so many signs. But you know what? I just a little differently just did things differently as far as, for one, I stayed just with the spiritual realm. Let me tell you, like, I had to be prayed up to have that shield for myself every day that I went in there. And I was on the executive staff level. So I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, Jenée, you know what? And I could tell that unfortunately for them, to each their own, because I'm the last person to judge, but they did not believe. But I knew that I did, and that's all I needed was my God to be there for me every day to see me through it. 6.5 years. And I still
Mhm.
stayed at that. Like, even in my office, I kept gospel music and things to just keep me going, because I always had to be that bigger person no matter what. I knew that they wanted to see the angry Black female. I
Right.
them that. Never. Okay? It was not happening.
Mm-hmm.
And plus,
Wow.
have angry in me. You know what I mean? Because of who.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to just stay to who I was for the most part. So I can totally relate. I totally get
Well,
it.
I'll
And
tell you what, God had to really talk with me because I was not, let me just tell you, there was I had a live event that I was telling you about, and I did it with a couple of Black women who are just amazing. And someone in the audience said, how do you keep yourself composed and keep yourself from getting angry, while you're experiencing this? And I said, you know what? You're going to have to leave it to the psychotherapist here to answer that, because I was not that person. I was trying to get that bitch in an alley somewhere with no cameras and no witnesses so I could really do some damage. And I really had to talk to God. I said, Lord, please don't let me get this woman into a dark alley with no cameras and no witnesses, because I cannot be responsible for what I do. And God knew I was in despair. And so by the end of my career, I just, I wanted to hurt her so bad. I was filled with so much darkness, and, evil had really kind of taken root, and I really wanted to do some damage. And trust me, I could have snapped that woman like a twig, okay? I was really in a very dark place. And I was alarmed by my dark desires, because I began to understand how people can go postal,
yeah.
how they can, just snap and then go back and do harm to anyone who gets between them and that boss. I was very alarmed by what I was experiencing. And so I actually went to the edge of the ocean at a place called Salt Creek Beach, and I was going to commit suicide.
Oh.
Okay. I was just exhausted. I was like, why do I have to keep fighting just to keep a job that I can do? I can run circles around these people, and yet they still keep their jobs, but I keep losing mine. And I'm tired of having to go back and fight, because it took a lot out of me. And so I decided I was going to commit suicide. And so I went to the beach the day before. And I went with my cell phone in my pocket, and I just kind of stood on the edge of the ocean. And I just cannot describe what I was feeling. The call of the sea was strong that day, and it just felt like that was where I wanted to be. And so I could see the waves. I went to this particular beach because it was known for having aggressive waves. And so the surfers loved this beach, and I could see the people surfing. And so I just got up close to the water, knowing that I can't swim. And I figured I would just let one of those waves just come and kind of take me over and pull me out to sea. So I'm watching and I'm waiting for this wave. And as this wave starts coming towards me, I panic. And so I made a video. I videotaped what I was trying to do. And I made a video, and then all of a sudden you see me turn around and start running from this water, this big massive wave that's coming at me. And I run and I get far enough, and when I turn around, just the water's coming upon me, but it's no longer a big wave.
Wow.
So I made a video, and I post that video on LinkedIn around my birthday once a year. Because I'm thankful that I didn't go through with what I wanted to. But I did go back the next day. And I figured out, I said, well, dummy, the mistake you made was you were watching the wave come at you. Why don't you do it but close your eyes so you can't see it? So I went back up to the edge and I closed my eyes. And as I'm waiting for this wave to just take me over, that's when God got into my ear. And God said, no, you're not going to do this. And the reason he said I wasn't going to do it is what really stopped me in my tracks. So I'm standing there. I mean, if you can imagine, I'm standing there. I can't swim. My eyes are closed, and I'm literally just waiting for this wave to come and take me away. God says, you're not going to do that. because your youngest daughter is your mini-me, and you know she has followed in your footsteps your entire life and her entire life. She is your mini-me.
Mm.
And if you go into the sea, she will follow. And then
Ooh.
I saw Whitney Houston and her daughter.
Mm.
And that is what snapped me. I mean, it was just, I just cannot tell you what the energy that I felt that day. And then my phone rang, and it was my youngest daughter
Mm.
calling me.
God.
So I step out of myself long enough to take her call, and Delilah started screaming into the phone at the top of her lungs, and she said, "Mom, they're setting me up. I'm about to get fired." And she's just hysterical.
Mm.
And she's a single mom like me, because she literally has followed in my
Mm.
footsteps through everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so she's like me. She's a single mom. She's working at this toxic job that I didn't know. I didn't know she was experiencing
Mhm.
the same thing that I was experiencing. And so that's when I found out, your daughter is experiencing the same thing. And if you go into the sea, she will follow, because she's at her breaking point. But she don't know how to fight. You do. So,
That was so God, Jackie. Big time.
mhm.
And I am
Yeah.
glad that you're here with us because,
Yeah, me
you know, that's
too.
another reason why I share my story. I am telling you because I'm like, I got to show people that throughout, no matter what, any storm that comes against you, you can do this. You can
Yes, you can do
still do,
this.
you still are needed on this earth and all these things. There's so many people who are unfortunately didn't believe that about themselves. They didn't
Mhm.
love themselves like that
Mhm.
to know that they've taken their lives. But you know what? I'm like, despite all the things that I've been through, from being molested by my own stepfather
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
literally going through that corporate, just turmoil and things like that, and just being discriminated against, and to where even my former boss said the N word in
Mm.
3 different languages
Wow.
in front of
Wow.
a huge employee of ours, as well as just who we were like reporting to and things like that. Like, it's real out here. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like,
Yes.
you can get through this, and so can everybody else. So I'm so glad
Mhm.
that you got this story and you're sharing, and we're moving on to number 2. We're going on to question number 2. Wow, this is so powerful. So question number 2 for you is, you've said what's happening to like Black employees and how it's not unconscious, right? It's unconscionable is what you had mentioned.
Mhm. Mhm.
So can
And and I also
you
say it's
expand
not the
on that?
result of unconscious bias,
Okay,
okay? You know
then,
how
yeah.
they try to tell you it's unconscious bias?
Mm-hmm.
No,
How
it's,
it shows up in
it's unconscious BS.
yeah. How does it show up in corporate spaces is what we want to
Mm.
know.
So the first thing that people need to know, okay, it is not unconscious. When you do something unconsciously, it means that you are not aware that your actions are discriminatory, or you are not aware that your actions are offensive, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And there is a difference, okay? So let me explain that. There is a difference between microaggressions and what we're experiencing, what's actually getting Black women, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And Black men, quite frankly, out of their positions, okay? They're actually destroying their positions, okay? There's a difference. So, yeah, you may have someone who's like, obsessed with your hair, wanting to talk about your hair, okay? Your hair, that's not your real hair, or, your hair doesn't look professional enough, okay? Or some ridiculous person who even wants to touch your hair. And yes, that is, I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous. And it is certainly annoying.
It's violent.
And sometimes it's even painful. But that is not what derails your career. What derails your career is not, like I said, it's not based on anything unconscious. There is no unconscious bias in what's happening to you.
Mm-hmm.
What is happening to you is a bunch of unconscious BS, because the people who are targeting you and working together. There are always minions. The people that are working with this leader to destroy your career, they are fully aware of what they are doing to you. And more importantly, they're enjoying it. They like breaking you. It's not enough just to get you out of your position. They want to humiliate you.
Yep.
They want to break your spirit. They want to do things that makes it so hard for you to recover. Let me give you just a quick example, okay? Let's say that you've started a new job or you've recently been promoted, okay? So we talked about how they will deny you a proper training to set you up for success, okay? Now, they deny you the proper training, so you're already behind the ball in terms of your ability to do this job successfully because you've been given limited information that they know is vital to your ability to succeed in this career. Or like I said, in my case, they give you the wrong information about how to do this job in their company, okay? So they will also have problems. Everybody has access problems, okay? You don't have the right accesses that you need. So you come out of the gate with bad information about how to do your job, problems, hiccups with the computer you've been given or the access to the share drives you've been given, or, somebody will change a couple of numbers on the direct deposit slip that you gave them for direct deposit, and now you don't get your paycheck on time. I mean, things that are designed to just really set you back, okay? Yeah. So if you're like most Black women, we have not been able to just walk away from these jobs so easily as other people can, because we know it's more difficult for us to find another good paying job. It may take us a while. And so we're going to try our best to stick this out. So that means we're going to train ourselves. Okay, we're going to stay up nights when we should be spending with our family, trying to study and learn how to do this job because you've been onboarded improperly. Okay. You are going to do everything that you can to try to learn this job on your own, which means that you're spending a lot of time away from work trying to get this done. One of the things that I find also happens is a lot of Black women, they're put into these positions and they're misclassifying them as salaried exempt so that they can put a mountain of work on your back, have you doing the work of 2, 3, sometimes 4 people, but not pay you for all that extra work you're doing because they've intentionally misclassified you as salary exempt. So you have to work, but you don't get paid overtime. And so they will pile that work and turn you into something that I call the Black workhorse, okay? And so when you add the fact that you're struggling to learn your job, you don't have the right equipment, you don't have the right accesses, you're doing a lot of work from home, and now they're piling all this extra work on your back, it really starts setting a disturbing pattern of you not getting enough sleep. Your skills and labor being exploited, okay? And other people around you, they're not having to work through their lunches. They're not having to stay late after work and work. They're not working on weekends. They're not working on holidays. And in my case, my workload was so heavy, I was using my PTO, my vacation time, to try to catch up on this never-ending amount of work.
Yeah.
Does that
You're not
make sense?
home. I
Mm-hmm.
that often till midnight. Get off at
Yes.
8 p.m. and
Yes.
till midnight. Still running this $1 million company.
Yeah.
Okay.
You would fall asleep. I remember falling asleep with my laptop on my lap, just trying to squeeze in a little bit of more work before I go to sleep, because my workload was so heavy. But then what was annoying was that, I had my boss who was secretly taking credit for the work that I was producing and getting promotion after promotion on my back.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
definitely tells the story of how that shows up for sure.
So those are just a few examples of how it shows up. If you are someone who has employees, they will inspire one of your employees and promise them your job. So they've incentivized that employee to start making false accusations of harassment against you.
Yeah.
False accusations that you're not giving them training. They will start intentionally becoming insubordinate and combative. I had people even accusing me of ridiculous, just ridiculous, of reverse racism. Giving preferential treatment to Black people, but treating white people bad. Just anything that they could. And let me also just tell you this. Some of my most horrifying, okay? Some of my most horrifying toxic leaders were actually Black women, okay? They
Wow.
were Black women who upheld white supremacy ideologies. They put more value on white lives than they did on Black lives. So they treated the Black people bad, even though they themselves were Black. Okay.
Yeah.
That was one example. Then the other example of the Black woman toxic leader is the one who says, okay, there's not many of us in high positions here. And so I have to make sure, that there is only one magical Negro on this team, and it's going to be me.
Wow.
So they will sabotage you, okay? So they can make sure that they're the only magical Negro.
I wouldn't have
It's
been.
ridiculous.
Look, the world knows me. It wouldn't have. No, I couldn't have did it. I
No,
done it.
but I did a live event about this subject. I did a live event, and if you go to my YouTube, you'll see it. It's called "When the Workplace Bully is Another Black Woman," and there were over 1,000 people who showed up for that live event on LinkedIn, and I streamed it to YouTube. But there was a woman watching it from YouTube, and I really appreciated her, because she made a comment and she said, all of the horrifying things that you're saying about these toxic Black women, that was me. She said, I did all that. And she's the one who helped me understand the magical, Black woman, because she said, that was me. I was going to make sure that if one of us survives in this company where there's not a lot of Black people in leadership, it's going to be me. So she admitted that she was the one doing the sabotaging of other Black women so she could stay and keep that limelight in that position. And I really appreciated her being honest about that.
Yeah. I would be able to appreciate it, but they would have had the wrong one. No. And here's the thing, I would stay so professional. Oh, but they would know with a smile on my face. Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I had a third question,
Okay.
but I'm skip the third question because that did have to do with you writing Hush Money and selling it out the back of or out your trunk with your daughters, because you had already kind of spoke on that. So anybody just jumped on and things like that, they can definitely go back and hear that story because we already had talked about that. So I am actually going to move on to gift number 4 in question. So in your master class, you teach how to fight back against discrimination, right?
Yes.
So what are just some, brief practical strategies that you offer that could help people like to protect their careers without losing themselves in the process? So if you could just give us just some brief tips for that.
Very good.
This question.
And I go into all of that in this book. If you have not invested $9.99 in getting this book, you are doing yourself a big disservice, because not only do I go into all of the warning signs, there are always signs that you're about to be terminated from your position, and I go into all of them here. But not only do I go into all of them, I show you how I fought it, and I give you my templates. I actually give you the emails that I wrote to fight these different things that were happening to me in this particular company.
That's
And so one
what
of the
hold
things,
it hold it up.
this book is called Surviving in a Toxic Workplace, Strategies to Help You Protect Your Career.
Okay, and where can people get that?
You'll want to get this book from Amazon. You know, I've always been a self-published author. When we wrote the Hush Money series, you know, we couldn't get a publisher. Publishers said there's no racism in corporate America. And so we couldn't get a publisher, so we self-published. Then after the publisher saw that the books were actually very successful because God gave them wings, then they all of a sudden wanted to come in and publish our next books. And I said, no, absolutely not. I will continue to self-publish. And so you're going to get the best deal on Amazon. You can get this book for $9.99 on Amazon, and it is worth its weight in gold, okay? Because again, it is a blueprint. It tells you all the things that you need to be aware of. You know, just for example, you know, in a toxic workplace, if you are put on a PIP, okay, or you go on FMLA.
Wait, for everybody who doesn't know what a PIP is, it's a performance improvement plan, just so you know.
Yep, the minute they put you on that PIP, okay, the minute they put you on that PIP, that starts a 30-day clock that you are going to be terminated within 30 days, okay?
30
If you go on FMLA because you are being traumatized to such a degree that you need a break from that company, well, when you go on FMLA, that's great. But if you don't do something that I call building the wall while you're on FMLA, you know, you have to remember you are basically giving your toxic leader alone time while you're gone to finish setting you up. So when you return, things don't get better, they get worse. And then 30 days later, you are out of a job. Those are just two of many signs that lead to termination, okay? They always lead to termination. Now, there are methods that you can use to fight back. One of my favorites is something that I call the E in email stands for evidence, okay?
Okay, wait, Jackie, hold that thought. Because I tell people, for those who don't know FMLA, that's that Family Medical Leave Act. A lot of people aren't, you know, they don't know what they don't know. So just so you know, that's a little bit about what she's speaking about. So go ahead and give us one more of those.
Okay. So FMLA is something they hide from Black folks, okay? A lot of Black people don't know. You mean I can actually go on medical leave and my job is protected? That they can't fire me or terminate me while I'm on FMLA? Okay. And so they withhold that information from folks. And so when people come to me, the first thing I ask is, have you utilized your FMLA? A lot of them say, well, what's that? Okay, and so I go through what it is and then how you can determine if you're eligible. So to be eligible to go on medical leave, you need to have worked at least 1,250 hours, okay? So you can accomplish that in a full-time job over a year's time. Make sense?
Well, I totally get it because I got 20 plus years. I'm exactly, but yes, I get it.
So going back, so going back to, you know, some of the strategies that I utilize, one of my favorites is something that I call the E in email stands for evidence. Because people make a mistake, they will document the bad things that are happening to them, but they forget about the good things. And it's those good things that show who you were and who you are, your character as an employee. And a lot of times when you start a job or you get a new boss, they're giving you compliments about what a great job you're doing, but those compliments are verbal. And so when the crap starts, so let's say, you know, this leader leaves and somebody comes in, if all you have are those verbal compliments to show that I was doing a good job, you know, I was well liked, I was well respected, then you really don't have anything to prove that. And then this person who starts targeting you is going to start painting you as incompetent. So when you use the E in email stands for evidence, you're making sure that no verbal conversation stays verbal.
Yeah.
You never let a verbal conversation stay verbal, especially when it's compliments or when they're having you do something outside of your job description. Even if your job description says, I'm going to do all other duties as assigned. That's a bunch of crap.
Yep.
And, even though the company says they're at will, that's a bunch of crap too, because that does not override discriminatory laws that say that it is illegal to discriminate. It's actually a crime.
Yep.
And so you want to be able to show that you were doing a good job. Let me give you an example. If me and I'll just say somebody named Susie, if me and Susie are walking down the hall together and Susie says, Jackie, great job on that presentation you gave this morning in the conference room on, covert racism.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to thank her, and then I'm going to run back to my desk. I'm going to open up an email. In the subject, I'm going to say thank you. And I'm going to say, hey, Susie, just a quick note to thank you for the compliment you gave me when we were walking down the hall this morning about the presentation on covert racism that I gave. It just made me feel really good to know that you saw value in me and my work. Okay. Now, Susie gets it and she doesn't think anything of it. She may respond and say, oh, you deserved it, or she may not respond at all.
Mm-hmm.
But the important thing is that I now have a piece of real evidence that says, on this date, at this time, you said I did a good job. And if you turn all of those verbal compliments and conversations into written evidence, and you send it to the person who is saying or telling you this, not just sending it to yourself or writing it in your daily log. You've got to send it to the person who's saying it, but do it in a way where they can't figure out that you're really collecting evidence. That's why you wrap it in fluff. I call it making it sugary sweet. So they see it, but it doesn't set off an alarm in their head that you're collecting evidence on what they said. And if you do that, it paints a powerful picture about you and your performance, especially when now somebody's targeting you and you need to be able to prove that before they came into the picture, you were doing a good job. So that's one strategy.
That is
Another,
good. That's good because I actually used to tell my employees, everybody knew I was the HR manager plus 3 other roles I was conducting at the same time. They literally would be like, Jenée, can you be our manager? And I'm like, we're going to work with your manager type of thing. I would tell them though, because I was HR, right? So I would tell them, but even as employees, I'm like, if it's not written down, it didn't happen in most cases. So very similar to what you're saying about the evidence and things like that. And you also mentioned the covert racism. That actually is tying us into the last question, which is gift number 5. So again, many people might not know what that is. So I just want to just state that for my viewers, covert racism, you guys, which is a form of racial discrimination that is disguised and subtle rather than public or obvious. It's concealed in the fabric of like society. It's covert racism, discrimination. It discriminates against individuals through often evasive or seemingly passive methods. Just in case you don't really know what that means, like it's racially biased. Like decisions are often like hidden is pretty much what we're talking about, or rationalized, not always just hidden, but they're rationalized with like an explanation that society is more willing to accept for the most part. So, with that being stated, Jackie, with her expertise and things like that, she's actually, explaining to us what she kind of went through having that, covert racism go on. So I just wanted to explain that because unfortunately, a lot of people, just like the FMLA and just these different terms, they're just not aware of it and they're not familiar with it. So I just wanted to definitely put that out there as to what it kind of means.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Very, very good.
Yeah.
And a perfect example of covert racism is, when I talked about um, doing a lot of extra work without the extra pay.
Mm-hmm.
So on the surface, it looks like it's business as usual. Okay, so you have a job description that you were given at the time that you were hired, and that job description has a list of bullets that says, I'm going to do all of these duties, right? But there's always another bullet that's added to that job description that says, I'm going to do all of these duties and all other duties as
Yep.
assigned, okay? So you're in your job and you're doing all of these duties, but as the weeks and the months go by, you're starting to notice something. You're noticing that these big projects that your boss was doing, well, she don't want to do them anymore, so she's now adding those projects to your plate, and she's telling you, oh, this will be good for you to get some professional development. Okay, so now she's adding these projects on your plate.
Yeah.
And then you've got a coworker who's going on medical leave and they don't want to pay to bring in a temp. So, oh, and I want you to cover for her too, because you're just a superstar. You're just really good at what you do. And, this would be good grooming for you, because we are going to be looking at promoting you soon. Okay, so now you're taking on this job. And so before you know it, your workload is so heavy
Yep.
that your back is about to break or you fall to your knees
Yep.
because you are now doing the work of, like I said, 2, 3, or 4 people. You're not getting paid to do all of that extra work because you are salaried exempt, so they know they don't have to pay you overtime.
Right.
And if you start complaining about all of this extra work that was supposed to be temporary, but now they're expecting you to do it, okay, that's when they go and they start making changes to your job description to start adding some of these extra things that they are now having you do to it. That's why you always want to save that original job description, because they will always go back and change it to add more stuff to make it look like you knew that they were going to be expecting you to do all of these other things. Now, to the people that are looking out at this from a bird's eye view, the regulators and things like that, everything looks normal. It looks like, normal routine task. You signed a job description that said you were going to do these duties, and you knew that they were going to be giving you other duties because here's this bullet right
Yep.
here, all other duties as assigned. And so because of that, no one is calling out this behavior. You don't even realize that what you're experiencing is racism. I cannot tell you how many people who seek out my help, they say, well, we're an at-will company, so I really just have to do it. And I'm like, no, that's not true. Okay. You are being exploited. Okay. Here's another example. You are experiencing the vilest forms of discrimination in your company, but every time there is a Juneteenth or a Black History Month, they're looking for you to take pictures. They need to update their website. They want to bring the Black person. Take pictures of the Black person in all of these different areas so that we can look like, we love Black people and we're diverse.
Mm-hmm.
So they're using your Blackness as a marketing tool. Okay. In my case, they put my image on all over
Mm-hmm.
everything. They even had my image on Rubik's cubes, okay, that they were giving away to students that they were wanting to enroll, okay. So had my face on the school catalog, on marketing collateral, including those doggone Rubik's cubes, had posters of me hanging in the hallway,
Mm-hmm.
and it worked. They were able to attract more minorities to enroll at that particular school. So externally, it looks like, oh, they really treat Black people well, while internally, I'm suffering, I'm being demoted. I'm being stripped of my duties. I'm being excluded, and so that's another way that they do this, by using your Blackness to project
Yeah.
an illusion of inclusion. And to everyone else, they're celebrating you. Okay. They really like her. Wow. And nobody knows what you are really experiencing in that organization.
Yep.
So that's another way they mask it. Okay.
Just putting on a show. I
Mm-hmm.
trust. I used to always call it like the token per
Yeah.
se. Whatever you want.
That's another
I'm
way.
that
Yep.
one person. I'm there. They're like, we're diverse. We got Jenée.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, hilarious. I mean, just ridiculous. Just ridiculous.
Yeah, I totally can relate. Totally can relate.
Mhm.
Man, so very much for your time. I know we had some complications in the very beginning of this, but again, as always, champions definitely, certainly adjust. Jackie, I am so very grateful for you being here on this podcast today as my special guest.
Yes.
Anything that you would like to share lastly to the audience? Again, you can tell people again where to get you. Just so you know, audience, if by chance you can't find her, Jacquie Abram, I'm following her, so you can definitely, get with my page and things like that. She
Mm-hmm.
did mention LinkedIn for sure, Jacquie Abram on LinkedIn. But is there anything that you want to just give or state in a motivational word, quote, whatever has helped you, to entrepreneurs, to people in their 9 to 5s,
Mm-hmm.
anything you would like to state for this last statement for you, Jackie?
Oh, absolutely. So again, our most recent book is our most powerful book. It tells you what the warnings are, so you need to know, am I being set up? Are there signs, okay, that I am missing that are showing me that these people are setting me up? And how do I write the email in such a way that it captures and it becomes good evidence for me without tipping off my supervisor that I'm actually collecting evidence? And I'll tell you,
Right.
if you are in a one-party consent state, okay, now one-party consent states, it basically means that you are in a state that allows you, both federal and state law allow you to secretly record conversations as long as you are one of the people in that conversation. And so if you want to know if you are in a one-party consent state, I give you the full list in my book, okay? One-party consent states are great. Now, I don't recommend anybody do this if you are 100% remote. But if you are in a conversation with your manager and you are in a one-party consent state like Colorado or Texas, for example, and they are in a one-party consent state with you, and you're having a conversation, you can secretly record that conversation and not have to tell that person that you are recording. Now, one of the biggest mistakes people make, they want to record a conversation, so they bring in their cell phone and they flip it upside down. Well, that's the first clue that you're trying to record them, okay? They know this. And so what I require all of my clients to do, the clients that are in one-party consent states, and again, that list is in my book, I require them to get this, okay? This looks exactly like a pen. It writes like a pen. It acts like a pen. But when you push this button here, it starts recording, and it is worth its weight in gold. And so I used to carry this pen with me everywhere. And I would even hang it on my pocket on my suit jacket along with several other pens so it didn't look like it stood out. And when I see my boss clickety-clacketing down the hall towards me in her 5-inch high heels, because she's really just a Botox Barbie, and she's clickety-clacketing to me, trying to ambush me and get me into a heated discussion, I just push this button and I can start recording it right there in the hallway. So this is about $16. You can get this at like an Office Depot or an Office Max. But if you are in a one-party consent state, this is powerful evidence.
What's it called?
It is a recording pen.
pen, y'all heard it first
Mhm.
on
Yeah.
Faith Forward Fearlessly podcast, y'all. A
Yeah.
recording pen.
A recording pen. It writes like a pen, it looks like a pen, it acts like a pen. But when you push that button, it starts recording, and the recording quality is great, and it's worth its weight in gold, because they would never expect a pen to be recording. So when you have a meeting you got to go into, you take your notepad and pen, you can write with it like you're taking notes, but it's recording everything.
That is a great gem, isn't it, you guys?
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to be investing in multiple of
And
those. Let me
there are many more.
I
This book
noted
is really incredible. I'm so
that,
proud of this book.
guys. So good. Oh my God. I love that tip. Look, the recording pen is phenomenal. I never even thought about that. And
Yes.
she did mention about if you're fully remote, because I know a lot of us are doing that as entrepreneurs and stuff like that, because I am
Mhm.
myself. But let me tell you this, remote or not remote, you guys, you do not have to take no type of discrimination from
That's
no
right.
one. I, another black person if you're black, another
Mhm.
a white person, Asian.
Right.
It does not.
Hispanic.
You don't have to take that.
That's
Not at
right.
all. You are
That's
better
right.
than that, and you do not have to be subject to that. I just wanted to tell y'all that
That's
as my
right.
audience. I keep it real and keep it, positive. So for sure.
Excellent.
Thank you
And
so
if
much.
anyone in your audience does decide to read our newest book, definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn, because then I'll give you an hour of time with me on a separate private Zoom meeting, so we
Okay.
can talk about, maybe what you learned, but also what you're going through.
Okay. There's a young lady that
Mhm.
you know what, I'm going to refer her to you
Okay.
for sure, because
Very good.
as I haven't been in the corporate world, I still
Mhm.
have that plus years of expertise, so don't get twisted though. But since I haven't been there, I know she had reached out to me. I had employees even after I left, since the position went away, and I've got up quotes because I know you say you can't see me, but literally, who was like, Jenée, we're gonna sue them. Can you be a testament, because literally you were HR, like you were the person that was helping and things like that, but it was others, you know what I mean, who were actually putting
Mhm.
me through it as well.
Yeah.
So, and unfortunately, I couldn't assist because when I left, I got this severance, this big severance and things like that. But they kind of had me sign things just saying, well, because I knew so much. I ran the company. It was $1 million company. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they're like, we don't need her saying nothing. We need her to sign that we give her this money. She's not going to retaliate and help somebody else. Because I knew a lot, because I was running the company. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? So there's a young lady, though. I'm going to have her reach out to you for sure, because just recently, actually about a year ago, though, going through some stuff, but I'm definitely going to let her know about you. So,
Well,
man,
thank you.
thank you so much for being on my podcast this evening. Thank you so much. You
Oh, my
guys,
pleasure. Yeah,
obviously, if
absolute
you relate
pleasure.
of this, put it in the chat. Put the word relate in the chat. Man, if you miss anything, please go back and watch this. Again, we had hiccups in the beginning, but we do come along
Yes,
eventually
we
with
do.
all this. Thank you
We
so
know how to
much.
pivot. That's all right. We know how to pivot.
I appreciate you.
Hmm.
So, Jackie, I actually do stay on and give them 3 of my gifts as well about this topic. So, by all means, you can jump back on after going off or however you want to do it. But I appreciate you and thank you so much for being a part of my podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yes, love it. All right, everybody. Yes, that was phenomenal. Wow. What an empowering conversation with Jackie, you guys. Oh my gosh. That was so, so needed. I knew it. I was excited about it. I'm so glad she was able to actually be on here and talk about all this, because we go through it, right? Man, so amazing. But if there's anything that I want you to take away from today's episode is this. Don't just sit with it, you guys, okay? Act on it, all right? Read the books. Like she has 3 of them. That's phenomenal, you guys, okay? Play the songs, join the classes even, but mainly speak up. Speak up for yourself. And when you speak up for yourself, you're speaking up for others also. Little do you know it, all right? Because the enemy of justice is always a voice that refuses to be silenced. Know that, all right? And remember, this isn't just about surviving those toxic environments, all right? It's about thriving beyond them. You know, I often come on here assisting you all with gems and things to thrive beyond these toxic environments. I know first and foremost what it's like to go through, as you know, several toxic environments. One being in the workplace, like I stated, one being at home, and then in school. So you can get through it big time. All right. So let's just remember, you guys, to follow and put into action Jackie's wise suggestions. All right. But also, here are my short 3 giftful, actionable tips and topics to relate to all of this as well. And hopefully this too will assist you. All right, let's get started really quick. Gift number 1 is knowing you're not crazy. You're being deceived. Okay. So Jackie reminds us that many Black employees are not too sensitive. All right. Or misinterpreting things. Don't let them bring those words. You guys know you're not being too sensitive, not at all, okay? They're being deceived by toxic workplace systems, you guys, designed to protect those in power, all right? But of course, here are some very helpful uh, gems, I guess I could call them, that you could actually do to help you with this if you feel like you're being deceived or things like that, okay? First, you can read the book called The Gaslight Effect, you guys. Man, it's by Dr. Robin Stern, okay? This wonderful resource will help you to recognize patterns of just those multiple things that are going on. So it'll help you to start reclaiming your mental clarity when you're going through these things, and most importantly, your confidence. All right. Also, pair your reading with the song I'm Not My Job. You guys, you got to hear this song, okay? It's called I'm Not My Job by Avery Sunshine. Oh my goodness. It's a soulful reminder of your identity beyond the workplace. When we get off, matter of fact, go ahead and listen to it, okay? All right. And gift number 2 from me is healing is a process and you need a safe place to start. All right. So just know that toxic work environments leave emotional bruises, you guys. I know firsthand about that. All right. And Jackie speaks boldly within her books also about that, the psychological like toll of staying like silent and how healing must become a priority. Okay. So go back and definitely get her books if you missed all of the episode, right? Of all this toxic workplace environments and things like that. And like I said, I've been through it, so I get it. I can totally relate. All right. But make yourself the priority because, again, you don't have to go through these things and no environment. All right. Also, today I'm going to give you actionable steps for this to help you just through these things and these toxic environments and being that discrimination of being Black and just standing up for yourself and things like that. So here's one thing you can do. Consider signing up for like therapy or peer support, like those platforms and things like that, like therapy for Black girls or Melon and mental health. Those are two things that you can look into. And if you know any young Black girl, teenager, or even a woman, they can sign up for that. So phenomenal, right? Okay. Also, you want to start by building like a ritual, you guys, of emotional release, okay? Through like audio journaling, using an app called Close Friends, all right? So, Close Friends is like a social platform that makes it easy to connect deeply, like with your actual friends or peers, someone who's actually been going through what you've been going through, or who's been through it before, who is actually going through it right now. Okay. Very, very helpful platform to get into that as well. However, it is suggested that you start the process by yourself, okay? By simply just speaking your heart into a private story every day, you guys, it helps phenomenally. I'm telling you, is that even a word? Phenomenally. If it isn't, it helps. Trust me, been there. And it's going to help you just to speak to yourself for the most part, to get through all these trying times and feeling discriminated against and being discriminated against, if that is what's happening to you. Okay. Again, no more toxic environments for none of us. Okay. It's not happening anymore. We stopping this today. Not happening, right? It's going to help you to heal yourself. So check that out. Also, you can pair this with like a 30-minute, we'll call it a hauling walk, right? Or hauling walk, healing walk, okay? So at sunrise or sunset, what you're going to do is you're going to have a playlist, you guys. And I have a few of them, but you're going to call it something like Soulful Sunday Healing, or you can just use your Spotify. But you want to literally have like your gospel songs, acoustic songs to help you to grieve, to breathe, and to build. All right. I'm telling you, I listen to mine every day, all day, and they're so very helpful. They help me through my days, you guys, and I know that they'll help you as well. All right. Last but not least is gift number 3 to you, and that is faith isn't just a feeling. All right. It's a fight. Okay. So today with my special guest that was on, Jackie's holy boldness didn't just come from that perfection, right? It came from her simply choosing faith in the face of actual fear, right? You know, I'm very big with my faith, right? So she teaches us that walking in your truth sometimes means walking alone. I too, you guys, had to learn that even about myself. I had to shut off the noise and all the people that were getting into my head or just speaking to me and things like that. And I had to walk alone for a period of time, right? But know that you're not totally walking alone, because what? You're walking with God. And I don't know about anybody else, but walking with God is my first choice, okay? Before any man or woman, for me personally. And I know it could help you also. But to help you walk in this boldness, here are some actionable steps, okay? First, you can write a courage covenant with yourself using parchment style paper, okay, you guys, and a golden pen. Let me tell you about this golden pen. Yes, a golden pen, because this makes it feel like sacred, because it's a golden pen. When you write it down, it's coming out in gold. You are sacred, okay? We are all God's children and we are sacred. So get that golden pen. But this is a covenant. This covenant it's not about like what you hope to be, okay? It's about you actually and what you already are, all right? And who God says you've been from the beginning. That's what this is about, okay? So you guys get that golden pen and get that started for yourself, if nothing else, all right? Then what you're going to do with that, though, is once a week, light a bold faith, and we're going to have it be like an intention candle, okay? Try one from like, there's one called a Scent and Fire Candle Company, you guys, which is a Black owned brand that creates aromatherapy for spiritual grounding, you guys. And during that same time, read the covenant out loud that you made for yourself with that gold pen that you wrote it in, all right? And then lastly, here's another tip. On your hardest days, we all have them, right? Watch the spoken word video, you guys. It's called Dear Black Girl, okay, by Candace Nicholas Lipman. And simply let it just speak to the warrior within you, okay? Can you do that for me? Put it in the chat if you're going to check that out. Dear Black Girl by Candace Nicholas Lipman. So good, right? All right, you guys, man, that's the end of those amazing giftful gems for today and episode. Man, so blessed to have had Jacquie Abram on here, just talking about discrimination and things in the workplace. Again, if you missed this episode, go back and rewatch it, okay? And remember, please remember, even in the most toxic of places and spaces, you guys, your soul is still sacred, okay? No workplace, no title, no paycheck can define your worth. Know that, all right? You are not what you like endured. I'm not what I endured by no means. You know, you are what you actually overcame. I know I am, you guys. So are you. All right. So simply just let your healing be loud, you guys. Your joy be non-negotiable. Okay. And your faith be the fiercest protest of all. If nothing else, for yourself. All right? Do that. I'm telling you, it feels phenomenal. I'm telling you, I am living and walking in my purpose, just even being on here. And thank you, by the way, for allowing me to be on here to just speak this faith into you and things like that. Man, I'm telling you, you're going to go a long ways with all these tips and going back and listening to this podcast. I really enjoyed this 70th episode, you guys, of the Faith Forward Fearlessly podcast. Can you believe it? 70. So I had to have this take place today about this topic. Man, as always, thank you for tuning into this episode of the Faith Forward Fearlessly podcast, you guys. With me, Jenée Hudson, the Uplifter. I appreciate you so much to the fullest. Thank you for being with me again during the beginning. We were having some hiccups, but as always, champions adjust. Know that no matter what you're going through, just tell yourself, oh, I got this. Champions adjust. All right. And please continue to follow for ongoing inspiring content, of course, here on my page. And please share my page, you guys. Subscribe to my YouTube page for my Faith Forward Fearlessly podcast channel and share it, like it. I would really appreciate that, you guys. And you would be able to bless so many people by them seeing this podcast. All right. The link will also be in the bio as well as in the caption. But woo, 70. Let me pat myself on the back. Thank you so very much, you guys. I appreciate you. Keep the faith. Remember, and if you don't have any faith or you feel like you're lacking faith, I want to share some of my faith with you because that's what I do as the uplifter, okay? Until next time, have a very blessed day and a prosperous journey on purpose. Later.